The first time Yin stayed at Irene's apartment, she felt a bit awkward. Irene was her older cousin, the daughter of her father's older sibling, and they were both from Bizen. Since Yin's parents were worried about her living alone in a dormitory when she moved to Seoul for high school, they asked Irene to let her stay temporarily. Irene agreed without hesitation, as she lived alone in her apartment anyway. "With you here, I'll finally have someone to talk to," Irene said when she first picked Yin up. Irene was a literature major, and her days were filled with reading and writing assignments. Her apartment was small but neat and cozy, with one bedroom that she gave to Yin. The first thing that caught Yin's attention upon entering was the bookshelves lining the walls of the living room. Novels of various genres were neatly arranged, some still sealed, while others were filled with folded corners or sticky notes. "You have so many books, sister," Yin murmured as she scanned the titles. Irene chuckled. "Well, my major requires me to read a new novel every week. Want to borrow one?" At first, Yin wasn't particularly interested. She liked reading, but not to the extent of getting lost in books every day like Irene. However, after a few days, boredom started creeping in. Irene was often busy with her assignments after class, and Yin hadn't made many friends at her new school yet. One day, Yin finally pulled a novel from the shelf. "Sister, can I borrow this one?" she asked, holding up a book with an intriguing cover. Irene glanced up from her laptop and smiled. "Of course, if you like it, I can recommend more." From that one novel, Yin gradually started reading more. Every night, she would sit on the sofa with a book in hand while Irene worked on her assignments. Sometimes they would discuss the stories Yin read. "I really like the main character in this novel," Yin said one night, closing the book with satisfaction. "He's stubborn but has a kind heart." Irene nodded. "That means you're starting to understand character depth. If you want, I have another book with a similar character." Without realizing it, reading became part of Yin's daily routine. After school, she would pick a book from Irene's shelf and settle into her favorite cozy corner. Sometimes, Irene would tease her. "Looks like I've successfully turned you into a book lover like me." Yin only laughed, but deep down, she was grateful. Thanks to Irene and her collection of novels, she discovered a new world she never thought she would love so much. Time passed quickly. Now, Yin is a university student living in her own apartment in Seoul. Despite living separately, she remained close to Irene, who had graduated and was now working as a content writer for a digital marketing company. One afternoon, as Yin finished her lecture, her phone rang. Irene's name appeared on the screen. "Yin, there's a romantic short story competition from my company. Minimum for 1,000 words. You were the first person I thought of," Irene said as soon as Yin answered. "A short story competition?" Yin repeated, surprised. "Yes, you love reading and have shared so many story ideas with me. Why not try writing them down?" Yin bit her lip, contemplating. She did love reading, and ever since staying with Irene, she often imagined different story scenarios. But writing a short story? She had never done it seriously before. "The grand prize is pretty good. You could use it as extra pocket money," Irene added, knowing exactly how to persuade her. After days of thinking it over, Yin finally decided to give it a shot. She sat in front of her laptop, writing late into the night, editing and rewriting until her story felt perfect. A month later, when the winners were announced, Yin could hardly believe her eyes. Her name was listed as the first place winner. She immediately called Irene. "Sister, I won," she shouted excitedly. "Seriously?" Irene laughed joyfully. "I'm so proud of you. I knew from the start that you could do it. I've been busy with work, so I haven't had the chance to check the winners yet, and it turns out it's you." Besides receiving prize money, winning gave Yin a confidence she had never felt before. She realized she wasn't just a reader, she could be a writer too. After that, Irene had another interesting suggestion. "Did you know there's a freelance platform where people hire writers for short stories? You can create a profile and start getting commissions," Irene mentioned one day as they met at a cafe. "Really?" Yin raised an eyebrow. "Yes, if you enjoy writing, why not turn it into a source of income? Who knows, people might love your stories." Encouraged by Irene, Yin signed up on a freelance platform and offered her services as a short story writer. At first, she didn't expect much, but within a week, she had already received several orders. As time passed, the number of requests increased. Some clients wanted romance stories, others asked for friendship-themed tales, and some even requested fantasy narratives. Yin tackled them all with enthusiasm, balancing her studies with her side job. Although she didn't really need extra money, even her parents always transferred more than enough, earning her first payment gave her a unique sense of satisfaction. For the first time, she had earned money through her own efforts. When she received her first transfer, she immediately called Irene. "Sister, I just got paid for writing a short story," she said excitedly. Irene laughed proudly. "See, I told you, you have talent. Welcome to the world of freelance writing, Yin." From that moment on, writing was no longer just a hobby or a way to pass the time. Yin discovered a new world where she could express her imagination, share stories, and earn money doing what she loved. Page by page, she kept writing, without realizing that she was falling deeper in love with the craft. One day, in the middle of her busy schedule completing writing orders from clients, Yin faced an unexpected problem. During class, a friend named Mina borrowed her laptop for a moment to copy a file using an external hard drive. At the time, Yin was busy taking notes and didn't pay much attention. Mina quickly copied the file and returned the laptop without any issues. However, the next day, during a quiet afternoon at the library, Yin sat at one of the tables, trying to finish her coursework, but her laptop kept malfunctioning. The cursor moved sluggishly, applications frequently became unresponsive, and worst of all, the device suddenly restarted on its own without warning. Yin let out a long sigh, frustrated. She really couldn't work under these conditions. Not only could she not complete her coursework, but she also couldn't finish the short story she was supposed to submit in days. This was bad, and Yin started to feel anxious. Across the table, Mina, who was reading a book, noticed Yin's troubled expression. Seeing her friend looking so stressed, Mina began to feel guilty. "Yin, I think this is my fault," Mina said softly. Yin turned to her in confusion. "What do you mean?" Mina bit her lip, hesitating for a moment before finally confessing, "Yesterday when I borrowed your laptop to copy the file, I forgot to scan my hard drive with an antivirus. Maybe it had a virus." Yin's eyes widened. "So, this is because..." Mina quickly nodded, her face full of regret. "I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to cause this." Yin leaned back in her chair and exhaled deeply. She wanted to be mad, but seeing Mina's guilty expression, she knew her friend hadn't done it on purpose. "So, what do we do now?" Yin asked, resigned. Mina thought for a moment. "Maybe we should get it fixed or reinstall the system." Yin groaned weakly. "The problem is, I have no idea how to reinstall it. Our major is accounting and taxation. I don't know anything about IT." Mina frowned, thinking hard. Then suddenly, her face lit up. "I know, we can ask Jungkook for help." Yin looked at her doubtfully. "Jungkook?" Mina nodded confidently. "Yeah, I saw him reinstall Professor Lee's laptop once. He definitely knows how to fix it." Yin's hesitation grew. Jungkook was their classmate, but he wasn't the easiest person to approach. He was known for being quiet and rarely interacting with the female students. "I don't think he's the type to help people," Yin muttered. Mina chuckled. "Come on, Yin. You've never even talked to him properly. Maybe he's not as cold as you think." Yin still looked reluctant. Just imagining asking Jungkook for help made her feel awkward. But what?" Mina interrupted. Yin bit her lip. "What if he refuses?" Mina smirked. "Then we'll just see first. I'll talk to him. If he says no, we'll find another solution. If necessary, we'll pay him so he won't refuse. I'll cover the cost since this is my fault." Yin was still uncertain, but seeing how her laptop's condition was getting worse, she knew she didn't have many options left. "Alright, but don't blame me if he's rude." Mina laughed and patted Yin's shoulder. "Don't worry, I'm sure we can convince him." When the lecture ended, Yin and Mina immediately walked over to Jungkook's seat. The guy was still sitting in his spot, busy with something on his laptop. Mina stepped forward first, putting on her best smile. "Jungkook, can we ask for your help for a moment?" Jungkook didn't turn right away, just glanced at them briefly before focusing back on his screen. "What?" Mina kept her tone friendly. "Well, Yin's laptop has been acting up since earlier. It seems like it has a virus, and we don't know how to fix it. I heard you're pretty good with computers, so maybe you can help?" Jungkook finally turned his head, but his expression remained blank. "Just take it to a repair shop." Mina glanced at Yin nervously. His response was as cold and straightforward as Yin had feared. Actually, we need it fixed quickly," Mina continued to persuade. "And if possible, by someone trustworthy. We're afraid that if we take it to a repair shop, the data might get erased." Jungkook shut his laptop and looked at them expressionlessly. "So?" Yin, who had been silent all this time, finally sighed and stepped forward slightly. "I'll pay you," she said firmly. Jungkook raised an eyebrow as if only now truly noticing. Yin met his gaze seriously. I don't know if you're busy or not, but this is an emergency. I have work to finish on that laptop, and I can't afford to wait if I have to take it to a repair shop. Jungkook remained quiet for a few seconds, studying Yin as if considering something. Eventually, he let out a small sigh. Fine. Mina smiled in relief. So, you'll help? Jungkook gave a slight nod. But I have to take the laptop home. I can't fix it right here. Huh? Yin's eyes widened. Take it home? Yeah, Jungkook replied casually. I don't know how bad the issue is. It might take longer than you think. If I only check it here, I won't be able to inspect everything properly. But that meant Jungkook would see everything inside her laptop. Yin immediately imagined the folders filled with romantic stories she had written, some with titles that might sound too dramatic or cliché. No, she wasn't ready for Jungkook to know about them. Heck, even Mina didn't know. Can't you just fix it here? I don't want my laptop to be taken home, Yin tried to negotiate. Jungkook stared at her blankly. If you want it fixed quickly and properly, that's the way. But Yin bit her lip, searching for another excuse. She couldn't possibly tell him the real reason. She was embarrassed that Jungkook might see all the romantic stories she had saved. That would be too humiliating. I can wait, Yin continued, pleading. Please just fix it here. I promise I won't disturb you. Jungkook sighed, looking slightly impatient. If I fix it here, you'll have to wait a long time. I don't mind, Yin quickly responded. I'll sit here quietly until you're done. Jungkook stared at her for a long moment, as if weighing her request. Then, he glanced at Mina, who was trying hard to hold back a laugh. Mina smiled, attempting to back up Yin. She really is picky, but Yin needs her laptop urgently. Besides, if you fix it here, she can check if everything's working right away. Jungkook let out a long sigh. You two are really something. Yin continued looking at him hopefully. She knew Jungkook was known for not caring about others, but maybe if she kept pushing, he would give in. Jungkook looked at Yin's pleading face, then finally gave up. Fine, but I'm not promising it'll be done right away. Yin's face lit up. That's okay, I'll wait. Jungkook ruffled his hair in mild frustration before taking Yin's laptop from her hands. Damn, so demanding. Yin grinned victoriously, while Mina struggled to contain her laughter beside her. Jungkook opened Yin's laptop and started diagnosing the problem. Yin sat beside him quietly, but inside, her heart was racing. At least this way, she could keep an eye on what Jungkook was seeing on her laptop. A few minutes passed when Mina's phone suddenly rang. She glanced at the screen and sighed before answering. Yes, Mom? Her mother's voice was firm on the other end, making Mina immediately sit up straight. Right now, Mina glanced at Yin and Jungkook before nodding slightly. Okay, I'll come home right away. After ending the call, Mina turned to Yin with an apologetic expression. Sorry, I have to leave now. My mom told me to hurry home. Yin looked surprised. Huh, right now? Mina nodded. Yeah, forgive me, Yin, she said with a guilty tone. But then, she smiled. So, you stay here, okay? Don't let Jungkook run away. She smirked before grabbing her bag and heading out, leaving Yin watching her helplessly. Now, only Yin and Jungkook remained in the classroom, which was growing quieter. The only sound was the soft clicking of Jungkook's keyboard, making Yin feel more awkward. Unable to stand the tense atmosphere, Yin spoke up. I'll go to the cafeteria for a bit, okay? To buy some snacks and drinks. Jungkook simply nodded without looking up, still focused on Yin's laptop. A short while later, Yin returned with a few snack packs and 2 bottled drinks. She placed them on the desk before opening one of the bread packets. Here, you should drink too, she said, pushing one of the bottles toward Jungkook. Jungkook glanced at it briefly before picking it up without a word. He continued working, making Yin a little curious about his progress. However, amidst his focus, Jungkook suddenly stopped typing. His eyes were locked on the screen with an unreadable expression. Yin, who was munching on her snack, turned to him. What's wrong? Jungkook didn't answer. He moved the mouse, clicking on something. That was when Yin realized what he had opened, a folder filled with document files. And what made her panic the most was when Jungkook clicked on one of them. His eyes landed on the title displayed on the screen. Love in Silence, a romantic story by Yin. Yin instantly choked. She quickly put down her drink and rushed forward, trying to cover the screen. Don't read that. Jungkook raised an eyebrow. What's this? Yin's face turned bright red. She tried to close the laptop, but Jungkook casually held her hand back. You write romance stories? That's Yin stammered. With a heavy heart, she finally sighed and admitted the truth. I often write stories, she said, her voice small, mostly romance. I take commissions from clients and sometimes join writing contests. Jungkook didn't react much. He simply looked at her as if the information wasn't surprising at all. Yin felt even more embarrassed. But I don't really tell people about it, so please, don't say anything, she added hesitantly. For a few seconds, silence hung between them. Then, unexpectedly, the corner of Jungkook's lips lifted slightly into a smirk. Interesting, he muttered. Yin stiffened. What? I want to read it, Jungkook said casually, turning back to the laptop. No way. Yin quickly tried to shut the screen again, but Jungkook effortlessly stopped her. Why not? He asked, sounding like he was testing her patience. It's private, Yin blurted out, her face burning. Jungkook leaned back in his seat, looking amused. Funny, you were the one who begged me to fix your laptop, but now you're being stingy and won't let me read your story. Yin froze, feeling like she had just walked into a trap. Jungkook continued lazily, I'm helping you out. It's only fair you give me something in return. Yin bit her lip, realizing Jungkook was cornering her. Are you serious? Jungkook shrugged, up to you. After a long sigh, Yin finally gave in. Fine, but there's a condition. Jungkook raised an eyebrow. What is it? You have to keep this a secret, Yin said firmly, and you can't make fun of me. Jungkook stared at her for a moment before finally nodding. Deal. Yin eyed him warily, but eventually let him open the file. Her heart pounded as Jungkook began reading, his expression completely unreadable. In silence, Jungkook began reading the romantic story written by Yin. Meanwhile, Yin sat beside him, watching him nervously. Her eyes occasionally glanced at Jungkook, trying to read his expression. To her surprise, Jungkook's lips sometimes curved into a faint smile as he read. While keeping his focus on the screen, he reached for the bottle of drink Yin had bought earlier and took a slow sip. Every now and then, he also picked up some snacks from the table, enjoying them as if he were reading something truly interesting. Yin grew more anxious. She had imagined all kinds of possibilities, afraid that Jungkook would mock her or laugh at her story for being cliché. But so far, he remained silent, showing no signs of making any comments. In reality, Yin's story wasn't over the top. It was purely a romantic love story, without any kissing scenes or anything too intimate. Even the writing style was light and easy to read, similar to the young adult novels she often saw in bookstores. After a few minutes, Jungkook finally let out a quiet sigh. He closed the file without saying a word. Then, with a calm expression, he said, "Your laptop is fixed." Yin immediately felt relieved. There was no mocking expression from Jungkook, no sarcastic comments, no condescending looks. He simply returned the laptop as if nothing unusual had happened. Hurriedly, Yin took her laptop and checked it briefly. Sure enough, everything was back to normal. Thanks, Jungkook, she said sincerely. But before she could close her laptop, Jungkook suddenly turned to her and asked, So, where's my payment? Yin blinked, slightly confused. Huh? Jungkook leaned back on his chair, gazing at her with a lazy expression. You said you'd pay me, right? Oh, Yin finally remembered that she had indeed said that. Quickly, she reached into her bag for her wallet and started looking for cash. However, before she could take out any money, Jungkook suddenly gave her a small smirk and said, I don't want money. Just treat me to a meal. Yin froze, staring at him in disbelief. Are you serious? Jungkook nodded casually. Yeah, it's already late, and I'm hungry. Yin hesitated for a moment, but eventually sighed in resignation. Alright, where do you want to eat? Jungkook smirked, satisfied that Yin didn't refuse. He then stood up, grabbed his bag, and said in a light tone, Find a good place. I don't want to get a bad deal. Yin could only let out a long sigh as she followed him out of the classroom. It seemed she had just fallen into Jungkook's game without even realizing it. Unexpectedly, after that day, their relationship grew closer. Sometimes they worked on college assignments together, and often they ate at a cafe near campus, just like they were doing now. In a quiet corner of the cafe, Jungkook and Yin sat facing each other, each enjoying their drinks while chatting casually. Their conversation flowed naturally until, without realizing it, they started discussing their past relationships. So, we both only had one ex, Jungkook remarked while stirring his drink. Yin nodded slightly. Yeah, and I don't have any good memories about it, she said with a small, dry laugh. Jungkook raised an eyebrow, intrigued. Why? Did you have a bad breakup? Yin let out a quiet sigh before finally saying, Back in high school, I dated someone whose financial situation was below mine. Jungkook remained silent, waiting for her to continue. I didn't care about his financial status, Yin continued. At that time, it really didn't matter to me. But it turned out he was just using me. Every time we went out, I was the one paying. At first, I thought it was fine since I could afford it. But over time, I realized he was just taking advantage of me. And the worst part, Yin gave a bitter smile. He cheated on me. And you know what? When we broke up, he still owed me money. And without any shame, he used it to treat his other girl. So, did you make him pay you back? Yin laughed. Of course. I sent him a message and threatened him, saying he had to transfer the money to my account within 3 days or I would go straight to his parents to collect it. And he transferred the money 3 days later. I'm sure he had to struggle to gather that amount before paying me back. If he had the money, he would have sent it right away. But he didn't. Such a pathetic, shameless guy. Jungkook chuckled at Yin's frustration but didn't interrupt her. After that I realized something, Yin continued, her tone slightly sharper. People say women are materialistic if they refuse to date men with lower financial status. But in reality, even poor men aren't necessarily good people. I was sincere, but I got used. So now, if I choose a man who at least has the same financial level as me, it's not because I'm materialistic. I just don't want to repeat the same mistake. Maybe I seem arrogant or cold, but after that, I became very selective. And I don't care what people say because I have the right to choose. One of my criteria is that he must have the same economic status as me, not necessarily richer, but definitely not poorer. If he's too wealthy, I don't want that either. He might be a good person, but his family may not be. I don't want to be looked down upon by his family. So, it's better to choose someone at my level. Jungkook stared at Yin with an unreadable expression. He didn't respond right away, just took a slow sip of his drink. So, he finally said in a neutral tone, you would never consider dating someone below your financial level now? Yin thought for a moment before nodding. Yeah, that's definite and clear. Jungkook smirked slightly, either at Yin's answer or something in his own mind. Interesting, he murmured before returning to his meal. Leaning back on his chair, Jungkook eyed Yin with a relaxed yet meaningful gaze. So, in that case, you wouldn't have a problem dating a guy from our campus, right? Yin frowned. What do you mean? Jungkook shrugged. Our university is one of the most prestigious in Seoul. You could say there are no truly poor students here. So if your reason for avoiding financially unstable men is to avoid being used again, you shouldn't have to worry here. Yin thought about it for a moment before finally nodding. Yeah, that makes sense. Jungkook smiled slightly, taking another sip of his drink, before Yin suddenly asked, what about you? Why did you only have one ex? Jungkook let out a short sigh. Because my story is almost the same as yours. Yin looked at him curiously. What do you mean? Recently, I just broke up. At first, she seemed sweet, kind, and sincere. But after a few months, I realized she only saw me as a walking wallet. Yin frowned. That bad? Jungkook chuckled dryly. Even worse than you think. She didn't even bother to ask indirectly. She demanded things outright. Yin's eyes widened slightly. Jungkook, buy me this bag. Jungkook mimicked a spoiled tone with a blank expression. Jungkook, I want those shoes. Buy them for me. You're kind anyway. Yin nearly choked on her drink. Are you serious? Jungkook nodded, his face still calm, as if it wasn't a big deal. Every time we went out, she made sure I was the one paying. Not because she didn't have money, but because she believed it was my duty as her boyfriend. Yin looked at him in disbelief. And how long did you put up with that? Almost a year, Jungkook answered casually. Yin stared at him for a long time. You're really patient. Jungkook let out a small laugh. At first, I thought it was normal in relationships. But over time, I realized I was just being exploited. So, I broke up with her. And how did she react? Jungkook exhaled, his eyes glinting slightly as he recalled something irritating. She threw a tantrum, cried in public, and called me cruel. But not long after, I found out she had already been cheating on me. Yin was shocked. What? Jungkook smirked coldly. She cheated on me with a guy she claimed could give her more attention and who she thought was richer and more established than me. And then, she got engaged to him, Jungkook said, swirling his drink with his straw. But for some reason, their wedding got cancelled. I don't know the details, and I don't care to find out. Yin's jaw dropped. She left you for someone else, and the wedding didn't even happen? Jungkook nodded and chuckled softly. And the funniest part, after that, she came back to me, asking for forgiveness and begging for another chance. Yin was utterly speechless. She wanted to get back together? Without any shame, Jungkook scoffed. She came with a pitiful look, saying she regretted everything and that I was the only one who had ever truly cared about her. Yin waited, eager to hear his next words. And what did you do? Jungkook looked at her, then smirked. Obviously, I wasn't interested. It was disgusting. Yin let out a long sigh. Wow, our stories are really similar. We were both used and cheated on. Jungkook simply nodded. For the first time, Yin felt like someone truly understood her feelings about past relationships, and somehow, that was comforting. Day by day, Yin and Jungkook grew closer. They often spent time together, whether it was working on assignments, eating at cafe, or simply having casual conversations in the campus park. Without realizing it, their time together had become something that felt natural, not just a habit, but a necessity. They found compatibility in many aspects, especially in their principles and views on relationships. The bitter experiences from their past had instead helped them understand each other better. There was no need for long explanations because they simply understood. Until one night. The atmosphere inside the car was quieter than usual. Jungkook had just stopped his car in front of Yin's apartment, but neither of them made a move to get out. Yin unfastened her seatbelt, then turned to Jungkook with a small smile. Thanks for driving me home. But before she could open the door, Jungkook stopped her. Wait. Yin furrowed her brows. Why? Jungkook didn't answer immediately. He looked hesitant, as if he was deep in thought. But then, he let out a slow breath and turned to face Yin, his gaze deep and serious. I like you. The simple confession made Yin's heart race. I can't hold it in anymore, Jungkook continued, his voice softer. I feel comfortable with you. I love talking with you and spending time with you. I don't want this to just be friendship. Yin stared at him, searching for any hint of doubt in his eyes, but she found none. Jungkook smiled slightly, looking a bit nervous. So, will you be my girlfriend? Yin's heart felt full. She had known the answer all along, but somehow, saying it out loud felt difficult when Jungkook was looking at her like that. I like you too, she finally said. Jungkook held her gaze for a moment, as if making sure he had heard correctly. Then, the corners of his lips lifted into a relieved smile. For a few moments, they simply sat in silence, looking at each other. The atmosphere was slightly awkward, but slowly, Jungkook reached for her hand. I'm really happy. I never expected to feel this comfortable with you, he said, then gently pressed a kiss to Yin's hand, making her cheeks flush. Jungkook's lips felt soft and warm against her skin, sending Yin's heartbeat into a frenzy. Your hand smells so nice. I like it, Jungkook murmured, his voice low and deep. Yin hadn't had the chance to respond when Jungkook kissed the back of her hand again, this time lingering a little longer. Her heart pounded rapidly, and she could feel her face growing even warmer. Jungkook gazed at her, a small smile still playing on his lips, but there was something in his eyes, something deeper, more intense. Slowly, he tightened his hold on her hand. I like you, he said again, as if wanting to emphasize his feelings. Yin swallowed hard, her lips slightly parted as if she wanted to say something, but no words came out. Jungkook leaned in, his gaze dropped to Yin's lips, then returned to her eyes. May I? He asked, his voice almost a whisper. Yin understood what Jungkook meant and what was about to happen. She didn't back away, didn't resist. Instead, she smiled shyly and gave a small nod. And when Jungkook's lips touched hers, Yin felt her heart leap out of her chest. The kiss was soft, warm, and careful as if Jungkook wanted to make sure she was okay with it. They both closed their eyes. His touch was so gentle, yet enough to make her body feel weak. Jungkook pulled away slightly, his eyes meeting hers as if searching for reassurance. But when Yin showed no signs of hesitation, he leaned in again, kissing her once more, this time a little deeper. His hand moved up to her cheek, caressing it gently as their lips met again. Yin could feel Jungkook's breath so close, his warmth filling the small space between them. They forgot everything, time, place, even the fact that they were still in the car. The only thing they felt was each other. When they finally parted, Yin slowly opened her eyes, still trying to catch her breath. Jungkook looked at her with an expression that was hard to describe. A small smile remained on his lips, but his eyes held something deeper. I can't believe this is my first kiss, Yin murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Jungkook chuckled softly, same, I've never done this before. Yin looked at him in disbelief. Really? Not even with your ex? Jungkook nodded. Yeah, I never really wanted to, but with you. He gazed at her with warmth in his eyes. I couldn't stop myself. Yin smiled softly. I used to always refuse when my ex asked for a kiss, but I can't say no to you. They looked at each other in silence before eventually chuckling softly. Why are we so alike? Yin mused between giggles. Jungkook smiled again, his gaze full of affection. Maybe we really are meant to be. He softly patted Yin's head. Now, go inside. Yin nodded. Okay, don't forget to text me when you get home. Jungkook nodded with a small smile. He waited until Yin was safely inside the apartment lobby before finally driving away. One quiet afternoon, Jungkook was visiting Yin's apartment. He was sitting comfortably on the sofa, watching TV with his legs stretched out in front of him. Meanwhile, Yin sat beside him, her laptop on her lap, her fingers swiftly typing while occasionally checking messages from clients who had ordered short stories from her. The peaceful atmosphere was suddenly interrupted when Yin gasped and instinctively touched her cheek. Jungkook, curious, immediately turned toward her. What's wrong? He asked, furrowing his brow. Yin turned to him, still with a surprised expression. Turns out this time my client wants a kissing scene in the story. Jungkook smirked, the corners of his lips curling mischievously. So, is it hard? He teased. We've already done it. It should be easy, right? Yin huffed and playfully nudged his shoulder. It's different. Writing a scene like that has to make the readers feel the emotions too. Jungkook just chuckled and went back to watching TV. But a few minutes later, he glanced at her again and saw Yin letting out a long sigh, her expression clearly frustrated. He watched her with curiosity. What's going on now? Yin shut her laptop a little roughly. I don't like the plot for this one, she complained. The characters cheat, but in the end, they stay together. I really hate stories like this. Jungkook raised an eyebrow, surprised to see Yin so upset. Then why did you take it? Yin leaned back against the sofa, staring at the ceiling in frustration. I couldn't refuse. I've already got the contract, so I have to finish it. Jungkook nodded slowly, starting to understand her situation. This isn't the first time, Yin continued. I've gotten orders before with plots I didn't like, but what can I do? Some clients sign contracts for 3 stories, 5 stories, or even up to 10. And the payment? Jungkook looked at her with interest. Tempting? Yin nodded and smiled slightly. Yeah, it's pretty good. Jungkook chuckled, then looked at Yin gently. So, are you still going to make it? Yin sighed before finally nodding. Yeah, I don't have much of a choice. I already accepted the contract. Jungkook paused for a moment, then gave a small smile as he gently stroked her hair. Well, in that case, don't put your heart into writing it too much, so you won't get upset over the plot. Yin sighed as she leaned back. I started writing stories because I enjoyed it, but when it's like this, it gets frustrating. Once we get busy working on our thesis, I plan to take a break from writing so I can focus on it. And after we graduate and start working, we probably won't have much time anymore. After coming home from work, it's better to rest. She took another deep breath before resting her head on her boyfriend's shoulder. Jungkook smiled, his hand gently stroking her head. Then maybe it's better for you to stop if you're not enjoying it anymore. Yin didn't say anything else. She just nodded, quietly enjoying the warmth of his touch on her head. A few years later, time passed quickly, and before they knew it, Jungkook and Yin had been married for 2 years. Their married life was incredibly harmonious, with barely any arguments, as they deeply understood each other. Both of them worked at different companies, earning salaries that were considered high compared to the average employee. However, this also came with a significant level of stress. From the beginning of their marriage, they had agreed to postpone having children so they could focus on building their careers and enjoying their time together. But after 2 years, they started discussing plans to have a baby. Once they made the decision and Yin finally became pregnant, she chose to resign from her job, not out of obligation, but because she wanted to focus on her pregnancy and the early days of motherhood. However, Yin was not the type to stay idle. After having long discussions with Jungkook, she decided to invest her savings into starting a mini-market franchise under a well-established brand in Seoul. The biggest challenge was the capital. While Yin's savings were substantial, they were not enough to cover all the necessary preparations. Jungkook, of course, wanted to help, but Yin firmly refused. She wanted this business to be entirely her own achievement. I'd rather ask my parents for additional capital, Yin said one night as they sat in the living room, discussing the matter. Jungkook frowned slightly. Why ask your parents? I can help, baby. Yin smiled softly and took his hand. I know, and I'm really grateful that you always want to support me, but I want this to be truly mine. Jungkook fell silent for a moment, contemplating her words. I just don't want your family to look down on me if they ever find out I resigned, Yin continued cautiously. I know your family is kind, but I still want to be prepared. Many of my friends have had problems in their marriages because people assume that wives just depend on their husbands. I don't want to be seen that way. Jungkook gazed at her for a long moment before finally smiling gently. He understood what she was feeling. You're so stubborn, he said, playfully pinching her nose. But that's what I love about you. Yin chuckled. So, do you agree? Jungkook sighed in defeat before nodding. Alright, if that's what makes you feel at ease. I just want you to know that you don't have to prove anything to me or my family. You're my wife, and I'm proud of you, no matter what you do. Yin's heart warmed at his words. She looked at Jungkook with deep affection. I know, but it's just a precaution, Yin said with a small laugh. Besides, I don't want to be looked down upon by your family. It's not that I'm being negative, but it happens a lot among my friends. Even though they work, their low salaries make them seem insignificant in their in-laws' eyes. In the end, they often fought with their husbands, and many of my friends ended up divorcing. The same pattern kept repeating. It was always an issue with their husband's family, when in reality, this shouldn't even be a problem, right? A wife has the right to stay at home and be taken care of, theoretically. But in practice, a wife can be belittled by her in-laws if she has no financial independence. So, I want to protect myself from that possibility. That's why, even though I'm resigning, I don't want to be jobless. I still need to have my own income, just for peace of mind. Jungkook smiled and pulled her into his embrace. Whatever you choose, I'll always support you. Jungkook entered the bedroom with a relaxed stride, taking off his suit and placing it on the sofa. His face looked slightly tired, but his smile remained warm when he saw Yin already waiting for him on bed. How was your day? He asked as he approached, pressing a gentle kiss on her forehead. His hand moved down, caressing Yin's still flat stomach with affection. Yin smiled, feeling comforted by his touch. Everything was fine. I didn't feel tired at all, she replied softly. Jungkook looked at her closely, as if making sure. Are you sure? Don't push yourself too hard, baby. You're pregnant. Yin chuckled, reaching for his hand and holding it. I haven't done anything strenuous. We have a maid who comes from 7 in the morning until 6 in the evening. I barely have to do anything at home. Jungkook let out a relieved sigh and sat at the edge of the bed. And the mini market, any problems? Yin shook her head. None. Everything's running smoothly. Since it's a franchise, I don't have to worry about stocking goods. The headquarters takes care of everything, including the suppliers. The employees were trained directly by them, so I didn't have to deal with minor issues. I just visit to check and ensure everything is going well. Jungkook nodded in satisfaction. That's good. I don't want you getting stressed over business or anything else. Yin smiled and pulled Jungkook closer. I'm really doing fine, Jungkook. I'm happy with my life now. I can manage my business without feeling overwhelmed, and I have plenty of time to rest. Jungkook gazed at her deeply then, without a word, leaned down and pressed a soft kiss on her lips. Yin was briefly surprised, but quickly returned the kiss with warmth. I'm glad to hear that, Jungkook murmured as he pulled away, his eyes filled with love. Yin giggled and rested her head on his shoulder. Now, you should rest too. You must be exhausted from work. Jungkook nodded, then lay beside her, pulling her into his embrace. Yeah, but all my fatigue disappears the moment I come home to you. Yin smiled widely, her heart warming at his words. A few months later. That night, the atmosphere in the living room was warm and cozy. Jungkook sat relaxed on the sofa with his arms folded behind his head, while Yin leaned beside him, playing with her phone and occasionally glancing at her husband. Suddenly, Yin let out a soft sigh and turned to Jungkook. Jungkook, I think I want to start writing stories again. Jungkook shifted his gaze from the TV, raising an eyebrow. Huh? Aren't you already busy with the mini market? Yin smiled. I'm not actually that busy, and that's the problem. Sometimes I feel bored at home. I need something to keep me productive, but this time, I don't want to take on clients. I want to write my own stories. Jungkook nodded slowly, showing that he understood. That sounds great. If it makes you happy, I support you. Yin's eyes sparkled with excitement. I've also done some research. If I start writing on now, I'll probably lose to writers who have been there for a long time. Jungkook frowned slightly. So, what's your plan? With enthusiasm, Yin showed Jungkook her phone. I want to make story videos and upload them to YouTube. Jungkook took Yin's phone and watched some of the videos she showed him. They were mostly fan fiction about idols, with quite a lot of views. So, this is like a novel but in video form? Jungkook asked, still a bit confused. Yin nodded quickly. Yes, and there are a lot of fans. I only realized how popular this is after watching several videos. If I do this, my stories can reach a bigger audience. I've been watching these types of videos for a month now because I was curious. Jungkook nodded slowly, still processing the idea. I never knew something like this existed. Yin giggled. I've known for a long time because I used to read fan fiction about various Japanese action anime, so I understand how it works. Jungkook looked at Yin, who was so excited, then asked, so, how will you make them? It's simple, Yin replied casually. I just need to change the main character's name and adjust the situation. Plus, I already have a lot of completed stories. I just need to tweak them a little. Jungkook started to understand. So, you're not starting from scratch? Yin shook her head. Nope. And the best part? This can be monetized. Before, I got paid by clients, but now I'll get paid by YouTube if my channel gets approved. Jungkook was silent for a moment, then chuckled while shaking his head. You always find a way to stay productive. Yin smiled proudly. Of course. Did you forget that we studied accounting in college? You're a financial consultant, so you should understand my way of thinking. She laughed. Besides, this is something I love. I can write without pressure and still make money. Jungkook looked at his wife with admiration and gently patted her head. Whatever you do, as long as it makes you happy, I'll support you. 1 month later, Yin was truly enjoying her current activities. She felt free to write whatever stories she wanted without the pressure of working for clients. Every night before bed, she and Jungkook often discussed the stories she created. Jungkook even took the time to read his wife's work, sometimes giving his opinion or casually chatting about interesting plot points. However, just like in the digital world, not all comments Yin received were pleasant. That night, while leaning against the bed, Yin showed her phone to Jungkook, pointing out a harsh comment from a viewer. Look at this, Yin said with a scoff. They're mad because the ending didn't go the way they wanted, but their words are so rude. Jungkook took Yin's phone and read the comment with furrowed brows. Clearly, in this story, the female lead is at fault, but they still expect the male lead to forgive her just like that, without any consequences. He shook his head. Women like this are obviously selfish. But if it were the male lead who made a mistake, they'd want to punish him severely and wouldn't even support them being together. This is such a double standard. I hate women like that. Yin nodded in agreement. Even as a woman myself, I hate that kind of mindset. It's so selfish and childish. I feel sorry for their husbands. She laughed. Jungkook smiled at Yin's remark. There are always people like that, giving bad advice but thinking they're absolutely right, even when their suggestion is completely wrong. Yin scoffed. Exactly. They act like they're my boss, paying my salary and correcting my work. Back when I was writing for clients, they were all very polite, even though they actually spent money to hire me. But now, random people I don't even know suddenly show up, speaking rudely, just because they think that as viewers, they have the right to say whatever they want. Jungkook sighed and looked at Yin gently. Yeah, they do have the right to comment, but that doesn't mean they can be rude or disrespectful. Yin nodded. That's why I won't let people like this run wild on my channel. I've decided to delete all rude comments. Any comment I don't like, I'll remove. I don't care if they're used to being rude on other channels, but on mine, I have my own rules, and they have to follow the rules. Jungkook smiled, fully supporting his wife's decision. That's good. You're doing this for fun, right? If you don't like a comment, just delete it. They're not paying you, and they're not losing any money. YouTube is the one paying you, so they have no right to act entitled. Yin chuckled. You're right. Even YouTube itself treats content creators with respect. They don't punish a channel unless it actually violates the rules, and even then, content creators have the right to appeal if a decision is unfair. I've experienced it myself, and I'm really satisfied with being on YouTube. Jungkook gently stroked Yin's head before pulling her into his arms. Don't let things like this ruin your happiness, okay? Yin nodded in his embrace. Okay, I promise. Not long after, Yin let go of the hug. It's late. Don't you want to sleep? Yeah, I'm going to sleep now, Jungkook replied as he lay down. Then, Jungkook noticed Yin suddenly getting up, looking around the room as if searching for something. What are you looking for? My headset. I still want to listen to BTS songs. I'm not sleepy yet. Oh, okay.